Blog Talk Radio.
Have you ever wondered why it's happening again?
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Rice, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Rice.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Welcome to Mindshifter Radio. We're delighted that you're with us, and we're celebrating, I believe it's now day 100 of Memorial Day. And our celebration or our honoring of Memorial Day is about taking action to put an end to war on planet Earth. Those who've been murdered and forced to murder, and those who've been maimed and injured and brought those injuries home to their families, to their communities, perpetrating damage beyond measure. And it's just time for that to stop. You know, it seems that some people on the planet just haven't figured out that it hasn't worked yet. So we're here to put an end to it. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to invite you, and we're going to make the commitment with you each day to pick one issue in our lives where there's some form of hostility or fear, and be willing to forgive that hostility or fear. Not forgive the person that seems to be the cause of it, but rather to reach inside of ourselves with the actual original Aramaic process of forgiveness. If you're not familiar with the Aramaic process of forgiveness, we invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. If you click on that link, the first 4 items are all about the forgiveness process. There's a new chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? 7-Step Reality Management or Forgiveness Worksheet, the How-To of Forgiveness. And then there are 2 radio interviews, or 2 radio shows, archives, where we walk someone through a worksheet right from scratch, right through the whole process. They're both very powerful. And so we invite you to take on a commitment today. Are you willing to do your part in ending war, in getting rid of hostility or fear? That's our invitation to you. And today, Jeanie is tied up in an appointment in Bristol, Tennessee. I'm in Chicago, sitting having lunch with a young lady named Jean Rampage, who has been doing our work for the last almost 20 years. School teacher, therapist, and so I got an invitation to lunch. We're doing workshops in Naperville, just down the road from her house, so she invited me to come to lunch, and I'm sitting here with a plate full of food and taking an intermission to do the radio show. So it's awesome what technology can do, and we're delighted to be with you. And so Carol has kindly agreed to do the switchboard for us today. Carol, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, Michael. It's nice to speak with you again. And I think we have Tim on the line, too. So Tim should be there. Also, sounds like you're having an amazing day. Don't you love that technology, lunch and radio all at the same time?
It is awesome, and we have this absolutely beautiful day here. I don't know, it's probably maybe 68 degrees, clear blue skies, sunny. It is just a beautiful, feels like a fall day. A little bit of chill in the air here in Chicago. And Dr. Tim, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing quite well, thank you.
Good. We missed you at the workshop last night. You and Christy's presence has become kind of a habit over the last couple of weeks. So,
well, we
missed you there.
We had our support group last night, and we had. Well, it was very powerful. We had eight people plus myself, and a very brave person deciding to work through a worksheet, and for the last part of the group, and just there really isn't any way to describe the power of the support of a group that's loving, where everyone is focused on supporting each other to work on their own material, and you have the proper tools, and the combination of the proper tools and that support just blasts away issues like you can't believe. And we demonstrated that again last night.
It is pretty awesome to watch how quickly those things can undo and reverse, and something that someone just feels is an absolute impossibility all of a sudden disappears. It's just gone. And, oftentimes it's something that never happened. I don't know if Julie might call in today, but you might recall the day before yesterday, Julie had called into the show and was in a lot of turmoil and trauma around a court date that she had, and concerned that she was going to lose, and it was going to cost her a lot of money and a lot of fear, a lot of emotion going on. So we supported her, and she moved through that. And the next day I talked to her in the morning, and I had suggested that she might want to get excited about the learning experience of going to court. And so she was, into that idea and was going in that direction. And when she got there to do it, found out that the woman who was suing her had dropped the suit 10 days earlier. And so when she texted me that, of course, it was good for a laugh, and she was laughing when I talked to her a little bit later about it, but texted back, there's that old saying, much ado about nothing, but actually what I texted back to her is, sounds like much ado about healing, because, of course, the whole thing was all in her head. Nothing was even happening, and it's like that at about probably 98% of the time that we find ourselves in upset. It's much ado about forgiveness, about learning and healing. So it is definitely a courageous thing for somebody to step up to the plate and say, I'm going to be responsible for what's going on in my mind, and disappear one more piece of hostility or one more piece of fear from planet Earth. And rather than remaining in the current mindset of the culture, which is that of denial, you made me feel this and it's all your fault, and that denial leading to dissociation, and it's that willful decision that's been made, perhaps for most people, for 1,000 generations, to remain ignorant of the way things work and refuse to look at the parts of us with which we create the same circumstances over and over and over again. And to undo that willful ignorance, to step out of the pattern of the generations and do something different is quite a step, quite a leap for most people to make. Because, of course, there aren't many people in the culture that are saying, I think I'll be responsible for what's going on inside of me. It does make a difference. So is there anything else?
Who's the person you're having lunch with?
Oh, Jean Rampage. I don't know whether you met her the other day when you were at the class. I think you said you're coming Friday, so I'll have to make sure to introduce you to Jean. She's a school teacher and a therapist that has been doing this work for quite a number of years, and so she's been coming to all the workshops over at the Ruha Center. And by the way, anybody who's in the Chicago area, we're in Naperville all week. We've got a workshop tonight, Healing Through Relationships. Tomorrow night we'll be Getting the Stress You Need. And then on Friday night we'll do Codependence to Interdependence. So anybody that wants to join us, they're free open workshops. And then on Saturday we'll be doing an all-day Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. And it looks like we're gathering a quorum, enough people to go ahead and do that workshop. So that looks like it's on and rock and roll. But I'll make sure on Friday to introduce you to Jean.
So where did she practice and teach?
Well, here, I'll hand the phone to her. You can ask her.
Well, greetings.
Hello, Jean.
Yes, hi. What was your question?
Where do you practice and teach?
Well, I am retired from teaching, and actually I've retired from my private practice for right now. I am focusing on the Course in Miracles and doing my work and watching it bloom and grow and manifest, and it's just a very joyous time of my life.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I look forward to meeting you on Friday.
Yes, absolutely.
At the workshop. Were you there on Monday?
I've been there every day and just learning and probably hearing it for, I don't know, the 20th time and going, oh, I just heard that. So that is just so cool.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing part of the work, that no matter how much you do it, I bring a new self to it every time I hear it, so that I hear something different.
Absolutely. I agree. And I'll turn you back over to Michael.
All right, look forward to meeting you Friday.
I think Jean is probably going to become part of the support team for doing the support group at the Ruha Center. So
that would be fabulous.
And it's fun to see what's developing in the Chicago area. Are any of the other folks that you've been talking to in different areas of the city, have any of them stepped forward to that level of commitment of, yes, let's do this?
No, not yet. The two people, one on the north side of Chicago and one down in Hyde Park, each made it to at least one of the workshops when you were up here in Cary. They both have the information about the seminars that you're doing or the workshops for the rest of this week, and hopefully we'll get one or more of them to one of those. But no firm commitments. One woman was actually looking at places that would have a room open, so she's getting there. And
awesome.
We'll just hold the space that it'll the Naperville Ruha Center opening up a group will be the beginning of a blossoming of a whole series of groups throughout Chicago.
That would be really awesome. Would be really awesome. Is David with us, Carol?
No, he's not. I don't see him on the switchboard, so he's not there yet.
Okay. Well, do we have any questions or anything in the chat room that we need to address?
Let's see here.
Nene just said hello.
There is.
Say it again.
Nene said hello.
Oh, okay. Hey, Nene.
There is a question here. We do have a question on the switchboard. Let me get them up. It's area code 952.
952. You're on the air. Where are you calling from? Give us a name.
Hi, this is Lisa from Hawaii, Michael, and I'm calling from Ohio.
Okay, cool. Welcome. Haven't heard your voice in a while.
Well, I wanted to share something that happened the other day. I had attended the Unity Church here in Talmadge, Ohio, and one time, and then directly following the service, they have a Course in Miracles class. So I sat in on the class and shared my knowledge, and one of the attendees remembered you from your speaking at that Unity Church some years ago. I'm not exactly sure how many. And then so I went back another time, and I just have a real nice connection with the people there. And what happened was at the conclusion of the course, one of the gentlemen asked me what it is that I do, and so I said, well, I do some deep tissue release work, Micronesian style, using my feet to, and I also, help people with these forgiveness worksheets of Dr. Michael Rice's. And they had already heard much of my input, and they said, so 6 of them, and I said, so would you like to, sit in on a class, can I help you with these? So 6 people said yes. So I got to teach, in quotes, 6 people your worksheets, and it was wonderful.
Awesome. Well, it's probably been 7 or 8 years since we've been to Talmadge, and it is someplace we need to get back to before too long. So, well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, so it was lots of fun, and I think, at the end of the class, it took about an hour, so I was just wishing that I had your, knowledge, but at the end of the class, I said, I'd really like for us to get together, in a forgiveness group, and really start working on this stuff, and 4 of the people were very enthusiastic, so I'm looking forward to this Sunday as I return there. So,
well, there's one other. Was Art Drentlau there? Do you know?
I'm sorry. What was the name?
Art Drentlau.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll contact Art and let him know because he's we stayed in pretty close touch since I was in Talmadge, and he's a gentleman you've heard me talk about that is developing the alternative power system and water pump for third world countries that can be totally powered both in drilling a well and then pumping water with just human power. They've figured out a way to make it efficient enough that a human being, actually kids can do it while they're playing and having fun. So,
that would be wonderful, and I'd enjoy meeting him. I am, I just, for whatever reason, have been sort of just not wanting to go to the church for whatever reason. And now that I'm there, I'm going, why was I being so silly about this? Of course I want to be in this church. So it's been quite an experience, and I just had a really good time. So.
And Art has written a book on the Course in Miracles, so he could probably use some support to keep that moving forward. They've really been going through a lot of work with the device that they're developing for third world countries, and it's really an awesome piece of technology. But I'll make sure to give them a call and let them know. You're doing it after the service on Sunday?
Yes, they have their Course in Miracles class, and then I, had made the suggestion, let's do more of this. I gave everyone my card, and so I'm hoping that, more people will be involved. And, of course, I would be interested in speaking with him, and, if there's also another Course in Miracles group in Hudson, which is nearby, and that's on Monday night, and I'm hoping to attend that. And then there's also a Law of Attraction group that I attend every month. So I've been speaking with people about the worksheets and about your work. So I'm just hanging in there doing my work.
Cool. Well, it might be time to start a full-fledged Mind Shifter support group there at Talmadge Unity. That would be fabulous.
Well,
they did have one for a time period.
I would, I would love to do that, and I'm available. So, whatever works for everybody else and works for me too is perfect.
Okay. Well, keep us posted. Any support we can be in doing it, that would be awesome.
Well, how about just one quick minute of personal support?
Yes.
I was walking and it came to me. The only thing missing in any situation is what I'm not giving. So I identified what I'm not giving to my former husband, which is love and respect and acceptance. So I've been doing lots of worksheets around that, but I still, it's still sort of a challenge. It doesn't feel like things are really shifting. Still not allowing me to see my children except in supervised situations, and so any ideas? Can you help me?
Sure. I think that when you recognize that you've never loved him and you're never going to love him, that will be a big step forward.
Of course.
That you can't love anybody, but that when you decide somebody doesn't deserve your love, that you rip yourself off for the presence of your own being. So I think I'd focus my work around what am I doing to withhold my own human life from myself? Okay. What is there in me that has me withhold the active presence of love that I am? And then, once you work through that, you'll simply have the active presence of love in your physiology, and when your former is there, he'll be there, and he'll experience that, and when he's not, he won't. Mm-hmm. It won't be about loving him. We've created a whole false culture, a whole false language that just doesn't reflect truth. And when we talk about loving somebody, we're really telling ourselves a falsehood. The same as when we say, I'm angry with somebody. I'm not angry with anybody. You can't be angry with anybody, but your physiology can certainly produce anger. And if it's producing anger, and you refuse to forgive that anger is the very thing, the fear, the anger, the hatred, the vengeance that we refuse to remove from our physiology or forgive is the poison that eventually kills us. And it doesn't really matter what he does or they do or whoever it is. If you continue to pour that violence on yourself from within, or pour your version or your venom on others as you tell your story, you'll be damaging not him, but yourself. He can only damage himself with the behaviors he does. You can only damage yourself with the behaviors that you do. And so the alternative here is to use this event, this situation, as an opportunity to see the violence that you hold within yourself and learn to forgive that violence. It's not about forgiving him, not about letting him off the hook, but rather removing that vehemence from within yourself.
Mhm.
When you do that, all of a sudden, instead of the experience of the false power that comes from our own hostility and fear, what happens is we'll let go of that false position and the experience of the illusion of power that comes from, well, when I'm angry, I feel strong, and we'll let loose of that, the illusion, and the internally produced chemicals that result from hostility that are really drugs. You know, when we are drugged on our own adrenaline, we're in error. Hostility is an indicator that I'm not seeing the world correctly. And, of course, the forgiveness process is about correcting the way you see, removing from your own physiology what never belonged in your structure. And as you teach your own mind to want to see the truth and to move into healing, however stressed you are, and when you are in that blockage and in that hostility, healing doesn't occur. So applying forgiveness, you know, that would be a worksheet perhaps with him as the object of attention, or yourself, or maybe your children. And when you do one on him, what's the goal? Well, I want him to approve of me as the mother of my children. And when you cancel that one, that will take you into the file that he reflects the contents of in you, where you don't approve of yourself as a mother, or somewhere you withhold approval from yourself.
Yes.
And as you do that, you may touch into, you know, the next worksheet in your 77 times 70 worksheets there might be the one that puts you in touch with, you know, when you were the 4-year-old and someone dumped their disapproval on you and taught you that you weren't worthy of the presence of love. And so you'll get to remove that violence that was poured probably from a power person into your field, and is the cycle that tends to keep being perpetuated. And as you forgive that, that may lead to the next one, or will lead to the next and the next and the next.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're right on, and I will do that. Particularly, I would like to believe that wasn't true about that. I'm still holding stuff, but you know, the fact that I really disapprove of his, you know, in the back of my mind, I still have a lot of disapproval of his parenting, and of course, then that means that it has to be in me, and so I'll do my work around it.
Now let me just do a guess. If you think about your power person,
yes,
how would I possibly know that they disapproved of themselves in their own parenting skills? I would know that you're perpetuating the pattern.
Yes, I see that. Yes, in two really wildly incongruent ways, each one, yes, and they're still beating themselves up over it. So, actually, thank you for that clarity. Marvelous.
Yes. So when you teach your mind to love truth more than function out of your power person pattern, then you'll change that whole dynamic, and the tendency will be that the external world that just reflects back to you will tend to change that reflection. If you recognize yourself in that, then you've got to deeply ingrain the ideas that are in your outer circle that you've entertained but not yet integrated fully in order to gain relief from your own self-imposed stresses.
Mhm.
If there's a situation in which you feel threatened or hostile, just stop and look at your power person and notice when your power person was in that situation, when the stress was up and the chips are down, that's exactly what they did. And though you protest that they did such a terrible thing, notice that you are now, decades later, doing exactly the same thing. That's how this carbon-based memory system works. And so, when we're faithful to the good old family feeling, when we're faithful to the power person's dynamics, and refuse to go inside ourselves, keep looking out. We think we're looking outside ourselves because we're looking at a picture generated by our brain that's interior to our brain, and we're pretending that picture is a picture of an external circumstance. But through your body's eyes, you can't see anything but the output of your own mind. Now, there are enough reference points that, we get to keep from bumping into the furniture to match what's going on in the outer world, but very little of what goes into our perceptual reality comes from the actual external world. Most of it is painted from within our own internal dynamics, and there's where the forgiveness process comes in. There's why we're inviting people to forgive whatever hostility and fear they hold that puts an end to war, so that this game of you made me stops. And your power person did, you made me, and here you are being faithful to the power person and doing what you disliked the most that they did to you, you made me. It might be useful to go back and review some of the archives on the codependence series that we did. We did about 3 weeks on codependence on the radio show. And you might find that in the context of this conversation, it will give you a new level of understanding and allow you or support you in ingraining these ideas in your body's mind so that those self-imposed stresses start to disappear.
Well, Michael, it just seems so darn clear when you say it, and then even when I hear someone who's trapped in their quote-unquote pattern, and I can, in my mind, I can hear you and I can hear the clarity, and yet when it's and I can even pare it back just a small portion of it, and really, and I know it, and I know that it's true, and yet when it's me, darn it, it's like I go unconscious.
Here's what happens. I hold error in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
My error comes up. I call my error truth. When I call my error truth, I'm now in blockage of truth, and there's a room for truth to get in. When I live in blockage of truth, everybody, what I deny and dissociate from, I wear on my sleeve.
Yes.
I put it right out there. All the world can see it. I'm the only one who can't see it. Everybody else goes, well, that's pretty obvious. And they usually bounce off of it and play off of it for us to give us the opportunity to forgive that. But when we're in blockage truth, and that's where that step in the worksheet of, I choose to love truth. I choose to love truth more than my own opinion. I love what Winston Churchill says about truth. He says, most people, when they bump into truth, get up and brush themselves off and rush away. No interest whatsoever. They love their own opinions. And, and we're all the same. I'm in the same boat. When I'm in my stuff, I'm in blockage of truth because I think that what I believe is the truth. And it's my lie. It's my own fraud. But, it's kind of, one of the things the Course in Miracles talks about is, it's like the output of your mind is like one of your children. You don't see any errors. It's awesome. It's fabulous. It's all true. But the indicator that your own mind is lying to you is that your physiology is putting out some form of hostility or fear. Once you can remember that idea, once you build into your personal code, because a mind in stress will never be able to figure out how to get out of its stress. It will never be able to serve up a behavior with which to get out of its stress. So it becomes a function of the personal code. Until you put that into your personal code, there'll be no way to get out of the stress. So when you integrate into your personal code, if I'm in hostility or fear, I'm in blockage of truth. I'm holding error as truth and not allowing the truth to come in. And, of course, the most difficult person to do that for, because, of course, you believe everything you believe, I believe everything I believe. I mean, I really believe in it. So when it comes up and shows me a reality, well, that must be true. If there's hostility or fear, that's the indicator that I'm in blockage. And that's where I need to do my forgiveness work. And again, for anybody who's listening to the show, that forgiveness doesn't mean I'm going to let them off the hook. It means that I'm going to go inside myself and collapse the root of my own hostility or fear, come back into direct relationship with that hostility or fear, which is usually a multi-generational pattern, and especially when the stress is up and the chips are down. It's exactly what my power person did that I hated the most. And here I am doing it to myself. And, it's a great definition of insanity, but because we're in blockage of truth, we can't see the insanity of it. We go, no, this is the truth. Jean just sat here and rolled her arm and, scrunched her face in affirmation. Yeah, I've been there, done that. So, and when you start to realize that that's the game and that the game is all about really healing ourselves, then, the whole thing gets to be a lot lighter and a lot easier to move through.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your continued input and support. It's wonderful, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I in more times than not, I am getting merriment from the observations of myself interacting with the world. So it's just
cool.
and it's fun an issue. I'm still in blockage of truth around some stuff. So.
But that's a really nice step forward. That's really awesome that you're moving in that direction, and that's where using the tools is a reliable solution to really true empowerment. Once you decide you're going to let go of the inner turmoil.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And of course, the world has this belief that says, well, just express yourself. Go ahead and puke on somebody. Just let it all go. There's no letting it go to just puke it out on somebody. That just reinforces it. People say, get a bat and beat a tree. Get a pillow and beat on it. That's no solution. All that does is reinforces the energy. And so the idea, as opposed to express yourself, is forgive what's in you, rather than giving permission to vomit on yourself or somebody else, that violence that's in your own cellular structure. Give yourself permission to forgive. And the person that, that supports you in just the expression of your rage or whatever, staying in your rage or avoiding responsibility without confronting and healing your rage, it isn't your friend. Teach them to refuse to be enabled by such craziness. And then you get to true relief. You get to remove the chemistry that produces the thought that reflects the feeling of I'm hostile because of what they did.
I was going to say I had an interesting option. There was a gentleman who asked me how to get out of this one situation and why he had to get out of it. And I relayed the story of me sitting on the couch in feeling sorry for myself. And I was going, but why, Michael? Why do I have to do it? Why can't somebody else do it? And you looked at me and you said, because you do. Because it's up to me. It's up to me.
So you'll notice, if you've been through it 87 different times with 42 different people after taking the geriatric cure several times, there it is.
Yep.
The past does not belong in your brain or in your tissue structure as an emotional experience with which to torment yourself and with which to define yourself. It doesn't belong there. It is in a shape or form. Somebody does an offense, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, their offense is a 1, and then we start throwing arrows at ourselves, bopping ourselves in the head about, and long after, we haven't spoken to them in days, weeks, months, and years, and we're still shooting ourselves with those internal realities and those emotional traumas and turmoils that we refuse to remove. And so decisions that are based on past hurts end up defining your future. Choices based on the fact of your being love instead will define your present and empower you to create an awesome future. Because your present is called the present because it's a gift. And the gift is, when you get the presents, you now are empowered to create a conscious future. But most people are so stuck in past in their minds, their traumas, their turmoils, their hurts, their fears, the patterns of the power person, they're totally defined by that. And they define their relationships by that, and they wonder why their relationships are in all kinds of turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting cycle to work your way out of, and it's a cycle that was established long before you came along. And when you choose to be the one in the family system, maybe the first one who has said, okay, I'm going to change this dynamic, you start to open the energy window for the whole family system. But really, truly coming from, instead of decisions, which means just cycling information in the mind from the past, actually making choices based on principles, based on what you've chosen to live, the principles you've chosen to live out. Most people say, well, I just do what I feel like doing. It's like, well, if you do what you feel like doing, what is it that's making you feel this way? Oh, I don't know, I just feel that way. Well, all feelings are shadows of thoughts. They come from thoughts. So what that person is saying is, I'm functioning out of unconscious thoughts. And so if I do what I feel like doing, I'm functioning unconsciously. When I instead select to live as a human being and then live via the principles of an actual human life, then I don't do what I feel like doing anymore. I stop doing what I feel like doing, and I start living by those principles. Then I have an opportunity, instead of living out of decisions, to start to make choices. Choices based in the fact that you are an awesome created being called love. And defining yourself, experiencing yourself, and your present out of that is what empowers you to create a conscious future. Without that, the future's going to look just like the past.
And I'm willing for that to be different.
You have my support. And
yes.
you create, as you already know, you create that conscious future by forgiving whatever's held from within, from the past, that never belonged there in the first place. Holding on to hostility or fear is it's like carrying around a sack of rotting potatoes. Things just get stinky. And the willingness on a daily basis to wash our minds. It's interesting. Oftentimes, people will run into this work and they'll go, well, gee, that sounds like a really long-term project. Like I could be doing that for my whole life. And it's like, yeah, that's right. You're going to do this for your whole life. Well, that just sounds like too much. Okay, well, let's see now. Let's see. You're now 45. Okay, so at 45, let's see, probably every day or pretty much every day from the time you were 10, you've taken a shower, right? What person at the age of 45, having taken a shower every day, would say to themselves, I've showered every day since I was 10. I think I've showered enough. I'm never going to have to shower again. And nobody would wonder if they made that decision why things were stinking around them all the time and in the future. But it's interesting, people refuse to wash their minds, and they want to blame somebody else because things in their lives are stinking. And I don't know anybody that's finished. I love what Zig Ziglar used to say. Zig Ziglar's a really popular motivational type speaker. And Zig used to say, when you're ripe, you rot. And people who think, well, I've got it all together, it's all everybody else's fault, it's like that rotting sack of potatoes. It's not very pleasant to be around them. And it's just time to let go of the sack, and that's forgiveness.
I introduced the worksheets to my neighbor, and we do quite a bit of worksheeting together. And after she probably did over 100 in the first 2 weeks. I mean, she was really going for it. Well, and then she says, well, I think I've been through all my issues. I think I'm ready to stop. And I just started laughing. I almost cried because I was like, oh, girl. And then, of course, in the next instant, she was telling me how she was triggered with this and that. And I said, so it's time for us to do some more worksheets. Anyway, I just thought it was really funny because I agree. I used to think that there was going to be an end, but I just, it gets so much better. Everything gets so much better, but there's still opportunities to do work around so many issues. And I appreciate it.
Jean has a question for you. Just 1 second.
Sure.
Yes. When Michael said, where am I separating myself from myself? I've been thinking about that and wondering if it isn't a way to answer that question is to look where the pain and the error is. Where am I feeling uncomfortable? Where is this upset? What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, where am I separating myself from myself? It's a broad question. And in order for me to bring it down to where I'm living in the moment is where is my upset. And it might look like something very innocuous, like my shoulder hurt. Or why didn't they call me? Or whatever. So I know that I ask myself a question that is like, well, aren't I done yet? I've done this again and again. I should be done. And it's like, boy, I'm not done till I'm done.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's my thought.
Well, it's a good one. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
The whole world, all the training we've had from day one is really designed to deflect truth. The whole way the structure of the game is set up is to do that. Now, and what people call truth is really some of the deepest lies that are going. There's actually a book by a fellow named Thomas Kuhn, who's a Harvard, Princeton, and MIT professor emeritus, who wrote a book called The Structure of Scientific Revolution. And here's a man who encourages people to love truth over appearances. And this guy is so impeccably credentialed. And what he says is that new scientific ideas catch on when the old scientists die. And he literally, as a scientist, as a professor emeritus from MIT especially, he says that the whole condition of science is structured to deflect the emergence of truth. Science is structured, he says, to push it away. And, of course, that's, most people think, well, scientific ideas, they're impeccable. Yeah, impeccably deflecting truth and hanging with the status quo and whatever creates a profit. And anything that keeps us in the beliefs of the past, takes us out of the present, prevents us from receiving the present, and nullifies the creative genius that could be coming through us at this given instant. And when we allow ourselves to play our true part in creation, that creative genius that is designed to come through you will be the very thing that advances the creation. But to do that, you've got to be of a sound mind and a pure heart. You can't have that holding on to the structures of the past. If you remember the workshop we're doing tonight is Healing Through Relationships, and you remember the 3 early memories exercise that we do in healing through relationships. And most people, in that simple, 5-minute exercise, writing about 3 early memories of conflict, have written about 95% of the conflict in their lives.
Yes.
And the conflicts go back, and they're usually conflicts that are before the age of 5. And most people's lives are run by those conflicts that happened before the age of 5. And everywhere you look, the game is set up to not deal with those conflicts that went on before the age of 5, to keep them deflected. And so to, try to float above the cesspool and not deal with what's in there. And, of course, when somebody makes waves in the cesspool, not realizing it's our own cesspool, we blame them. There's a cute cartoon about the person who's up to their lower lip in the cesspool, and somebody's getting ready to get in with him, and they very gingerly whisper loudly, "Don't make waves."
Yes.
And, if one decides they're going to chooses to do this work, there are going to be some waves, because it's not just scientific endeavor that is set up to deflect truth, but anywhere in human intercourse where weak truths exist, any kind of human interaction where weak truths exist and there's turf to protect, it's set up to deflect the truth. So it's an interesting game that we humans have been taught to play, and by playing that game, we've given up our human lives. And, of course, when we give up the active presence of love, our human lives, and it's easy to find a human life just hold a newborn, don't we always have somebody else to blame because I'm not experiencing the active presence of my human love and life? Well, they made me, they, oh, you, they, him, her, them. It's all a lie. It's all a deflection of truth.
Yeah.
So we join you in letting go of all denial and dissociation and going, what is it that I'm ready to give up now that holds me in this blockage of truth? What is it that I've dissociated from and am holding in the corner of my mind that I don't want to look at directly, want to blame somebody for when it comes up? Dr. Tim, do you have any thoughts at this point?
Well, just to verify everything you're saying, it's the biggest struggle for most of us. I know for me, the biggest challenge is to get myself to rewire my mind to quit looking outside of me for the problem when the pain is inside, and to use that as a trigger to get me to just stop and look inside and realize if I'm feeling it, it's coming from within me, and I'm somehow producing it. And once I start looking in the right place, it's only a matter of time before I uncover it and then dismantle it. But if I'm looking in the wrong vicinity, it reminds me of the guy that was late at night, right by a street light, and he was walking around looking at the ground very, very carefully. And he'd been doing it for 5 or 10 minutes, and this gentleman walked by and saw him and said, "Well, what's the matter? Did you lose something?" He said, "Yeah, I lost my car keys." And the man said, "Well, did you lose them right here, right by the light?" He said, No, I lost them way down the street, but the lights are out down there.
Cute. That's cute.
So if you're looking in the wrong place, there's just no chance you're going to get an answer. Did you have something, Carol?
Yeah, we have another caller that's been so patiently waiting,
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for
Thank
the call, and let us know how that support group gets developing and starting. We'll get it on the website.
Well,
Bless
I'm interested. Thank you. Ahui ho. Aloha.
Okay, aloha.
Hi. Okay, and this is area code 541, and it's 261.
Hi.
Well, welcome. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from somewhere beautiful in the mountains on my way up to Ashland, Oregon. Hi.
Oh, my God. She's been so patiently waiting, too.
Oh, well, I'm fine, yeah. I had to find a place that I could call from because I'm driving again, and in the mountains the reception's a little sparse, but I found this gorgeous place. I'll send you a picture when I'm done.
Okay.
I have to report that my court thing yesterday went really well, and I'm getting other insights now that it's passed, of course. First of all, it was dropped. The plaintiff had dropped it and dismissed it and done paperwork on dropping it back on August 18th, and somehow the court never mailed a notification to me about it. So I'm now seeing that as blockage of truth, and I was having to go through what I had to go through. You know what I mean?
Much ado about healing, right?
Yeah. For me, and it was. And then I was so grateful to her. I immediately wanted to text her and say thank you, but I didn't. I waited because I had to follow up on some things, and I eventually went looking for a card and some flowers, and it was just sort of a process. I kept being guided. You know, I knew that that's what I wanted to do, but there were all these blockages going on, like the store was crowded and I couldn't find cards, and my mind was saying, well, you don't know which flowers she'll really like, and she's going to think this is stupid, and oh man, it was really funny. So I walked out of the store like 3 times and walked back in again, and finally it suddenly was easy, and then I get to my car in the parking lot and start talking to this woman as I'm looking for the card because I want to write my card. And she's all in victim, homeless, lived in her car for 1.5 years, has an ear problem, this and that. And I just switched the conversation from victim to, I don't know, a higher level, you know. I'd start telling her about your work, and it lifted her. And a friend of hers came, and she was interested too. So what I'm hearing today is that people actually give people worksheets and offer to do them with them. And I had them in my car. I was looking all over for this card that I wanted to write, and I could have given them worksheets, and we could have done worksheets right then and there. So I'm going to do that next time.
Yeah, we actually had a fellow a little while back that always found that when he got to a certain corner, there was a certain, panhandler always asking for money, and he became very agitated every time he passed that corner, very upset and very agitated, and he didn't know why, and he would just shun the guy and be angry with him. Mm-hmm. And he did a couple of worksheets around it, and what he got in touch with was that he had guilt that somebody was standing on the street having to panhandle. The next time he went up to that corner, instead of feeling like shunning the guy and going the other way, he stopped and said, "Hey, you hungry?" And the guy said, "Yeah." And he took him to lunch. Oh. And he did worksheets with him at lunch.
Wow.
Instead of shunning the guy and getting away from him, he taught him forgiveness.
That's so great. So that he could be empowered to change his life.
Exactly.
By clearing out what doesn't belong.
And with the worksheet, the thing that he discovered that kept him away from the guy was his own guilt. Mm-hmm. That someone had to panhandle in order to live. He felt responsible and guilty about that.
Oh, okay.
His anger. Yeah. That's what his anger toward the guy was about.
Yeah.
And once he overcame that, all of a sudden, hey, buddy, come on, let's have lunch. Let's do some worksheets.
Yeah, well, that's a great approach. Yeah, I have all kinds of different feelings, but it always brings up, oh, no, I have to make a decision. Am I going to give them something or not? And then all the mind can do to justify it one way or another. So, yeah, so I did finally get over to where this person who was taking me to small claims court, I got over to her place of work right about when work was closing, and I went in with my gift and my card, and we just calmly stared at each other, no hostility, and I just said thank you so much. I know it took a lot for you to drop the case. And, of course, that choked me up and a few tears. And anyway, I just feel like I really saw her as the person I always knew her to be and had always loved, and had felt so much grief that we were going through this, And when you did that process on me about attachments, releasing attachments, where I called her into my mind's view and worked in the unconscious to clear my attachments, I saw her as that simple, peaceful, beautiful, loving being that she was and is. And so when we have a channel open in ourselves to see that way, it makes a huge difference. And once again, thank you for reminding me and helping to open that channel when it was blocked.
Delighted. And, there are two things that come forward in my mind in response to that. Both ideas from A Course in Miracles, and one of them says, one, that millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you did there.
Yeah.
And two, there is no place so holy upon the earth as a place where an ancient hatred becomes a present love.
Yeah, wow.
If we could just get people to start doing that in mass, what a difference would there be in the world?
Yeah, and you know what? The card that I got her, one of the reasons that I couldn't, it took 3 or 4 times to get the whole little gift thing together was that there was this one card that I hadn't discovered, and it had a saying in it, something about the world is a better place because you are in it,
Mm-hmm.
And it was really acknowledging her for doing the right thing for not only she and I, but for all of us. And so I really wanted to acknowledge that part of her person and let her know that part of my person appreciated it, which is nice really work. It's not just a part of my person, it is the whole person. The rest of it is the non-being. So,
yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you.
Releasing of the attachments is a powerful, powerful process. It seems so simple. How could that do anything? But I have seen such turnarounds in people's lives over that simple tool. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I had seen that it was grievances and things, and I had seen that they were in the way, that I was actually blocking my own well-being by thinking that holding a grievance was more important.
Right.
And even holding a grievance, that I had to hold a grievance just to go to court, just to build a case and develop evidence and, the whole thing, the whole way of thinking. I was in grievance about having to do that,
Yep.
So anyway, it's the world is shifting. And, and I told these 2 ladies yesterday in the parking lot that I was talking to, I said, we are in critical mass. Anytime you want to step out of the old way you've been seeing things, you can step into it, and there are people doing this work everywhere willing to meet you at that level and go forward and give you a hand in that way, not in a way of your victim story. Nobody wants to enter into your victim story. They want you to respect yourself and them when you are asking for something you need. And not, nobody, we don't need the story anymore.
You got it. Well, let me just throw out the thought that anybody who's not sure what we're talking about about the emotional release, the show where we did that was 2 days ago. And so if you want to go back and pick the archive up from the website, you can do that, and that will tap you into exactly the process that we went through 2 days ago. And we're down to about 20 seconds now, so I'm going to thank Carol for handling the switchboard for Jeanie needing to be in a meeting today. And please bring a stranger with you tomorrow and create the best day yet in the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the For-giveness Dr. Right and his wife, Jeanie.
That's weird. I've never heard it sound like that before.
Michael and Jeanie are here
every Friday
from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on
Angels Radio. For more